People who have been in a coma, what was it like from your perspective? Did you know you were in a coma? A friend of mine was in a 6-month coma after an accident. Afterwards he made sure to tell everyone around him to talk to people in a coma because they can hear you. But he noted that they should always tell the person in a coma what happened, where they are, and what's happening to them, because he said that his moments of lucidity were mixed with some truly horrifying dreams, and he had trouble distinguishing between what was real and what were dreams. He said he just wanted to be told what was real and what was happening. I was put in an induced coma when I was 9 years old after a pretty bad car accident which left me with a fractured skull. All I remember is a bad dream about having a bad headache and hearing my older sister telling everyone, including my parents, to get the duck out of her way because she wanted to see me. I found out later that this was on the night it happened and they were trying to calm her down before she saw me. Edit. For those who are telling me to let her know how awesome she is, I made sure to, not quite but almost, hug the life out of her when she got back from work. I remember what put me in a coma. Then I remember being unconscious, but hearing my parents, hallucinations, and then nothing for 5 weeks. My next memory is at home, and my doctor visiting me. My friend was in a coma about 10 years ago for roughly 3 weeks. Car accident. When he woke up we visited him, and when I was alone with him, he told me it was like a lucid dream. The real world was gone, and he felt like he was in a world he could create himself for years. He was dead serious too. He talked on and on about how he had a slight understanding that he was not in the real world anymore, and that he thought he might be in heaven. About how he felt like he was actually dying, and his last few seconds just stretched on and on forever. He said that's what it felt like. He mentioned that he could fly in the coma dream, and that it was amazing. He spent a little while in the hospital, then went home, did physical therapy for about 2 weeks, before killing himself with pain pills and vodka. People thought the pain was too much, that it was an accidental overdose, or that the therapy and the accident made him feel helpless and depressed. Honestly, I think he wanted back into his lucid dream world. The way he talked about it was like the best thing he ever experienced. A few years ago my dad was in a medically induced coma for about 2 weeks. Everyone thought he was completely unconscious the whole time, until he woke up and started mentioning conversations people had around him while he was under. This even surprised the doctors. He said that from his perspective it was like he was asleep most of the time, but he would occasionally wake up and could hear what was going on around him without being able to move or do anything, before he would eventually drift back to sleep. Dunno. I was in a coma for 11 days, severe brain injury. I don't remember being in a coma or waking up from a coma. I lost several years of memories prior to the coma, and my brain didn't really start to retain information again until 6 weeks after I came out of the coma. I'm told that my personality changed afterwards. I had to rebuild most areas of my life. It sucked, but it was probably a good thing. Although I'd be lying if I said I never wondered what my life would be like if I'd never had the coma. After being in a really bad accident that left one of my good friends, the driver, brain dead, they put me into a chemically induced coma for under a week to prevent brain damage due to swelling. When I first woke up, my memory was much better than it was as it gradually faded in the days to come. I have a journal my mother recorded things in, and I recalled many things I shouldn't have been able to immediately after waking up. Today, I have very little memory of it all, but I can definitely say that having positive people around you definitely helps when you're in a situation like that. If you have a friend in this situation, don't disregard them. Even though your life has moved on, they may wake up one day and in their mind, not a day has passed since the last conversation they had with you. I was in a coma for 3 days following a serious cycling accident, medically induced. I woke up with zero recollection of why I was there or what was said while I was out. It is easily the scariest situation I've found myself in, but I can't say I remember it. I woke up to my mom and dad in the hospital with me and my body in traction of some sort, and that was way scarier to me. I was out for 45 days, no white light, no tunnel, nothing. Woke up and couldn't remember who I was. For 6 months, never really fully recovered, so I just started life again. Turns out I'm a completely different person than I was, and that is a really good thing. I get memories now and then. They aren't pleasant. A woman came and sat by my bed for 6 weeks. Turns out she was my ex-lover. I couldn't remember her. Didn't recognize my mother. I'm not sure where I read it, but a girl talked about her experience and she mentioned that it was like going in and out of sleeping/dreaming. Just when she would feel like she was waking up, she could hear parts of conversations or the TV, but she would slip right back to sleeping. She also said when people would clean her she could feel them touch sensitive parts of her like her armpit and other area. The person I knew in a coma was in it for about 3 weeks and had no recollection of being in a coma. The doctor was saying his name real loud and he finally woke up one day. The doctor asked him if he was insert real name. The patient said yes. And whom do I have the pleasure of speaking to? Back to the doctor. I was in a coma for about 2 weeks following a cardiac arrest as a teen. I was technically dead for over an hour. In fact, people often ask me if I could hear my family talking to me or if I was dreaming. The answer is no. There is a huge hole in my memory beginning about 2 weeks before the coma through a week after waking up. And waking up as in quotes, because I would wake up, ask a bunch of semi-incoherent questions, fall back under, then wake up again, and ask the exact same questions, in the exact same order. Repeat 6 or 7 times. The coma was not even blackness. It just does not exist. I remember having the hardest time believing it was actually mid-October when the last day I remembered was late September. When I was a kid, my best friend got hit by a car at age 12. She was in a coma for I think a little over a year. She said she felt like she was asleep, but was most freaked out when she woke up and saw that she had gone through puberty while in the coma. About 3 years ago I overdosed on sleeping pills, and it caused me to go into a coma. I remember a lot of what my family said, but one thing stood out: my dad's voice. I remember him saying I love you, and I know you miss your mom and brother, but I still need you. I was in that damn coma for a month, and I woke up 5 minutes after he said that. I couldn't speak because I had tubes down my throat, and I was non-verbal for a while after because the pills messed up my brain. I don't know how I remembered, but I remembered the slang sign for I love you. I still struggle with suicide, but anytime I think about it, I remember what my dad said, and I try to do the opposite of what I was going to do. I was in a medically induced coma following a self-inflicted gunshot wound. I don't remember much, but my family described moments of me appearing to be awake. Most notable, an apparent attempt at humor. Apparently they put these mids on my hands to prevent me from ripping my ventilation tubes out over and over, but I pretended they were my lobster claws. I have no recollection, but it's a real me move. I was in a coma for 3 days. Unlike most people, I definitely knew time was passing, but didn't know I was in a coma. I kept having weird hallucinations about running a restaurant with my brother, and I kept getting confused and wondering where I was and why I wasn't managing the restaurant. I've never worked at a restaurant, and I'm not sure why my brother was involved. Life didn't feel real for a few months following waking up. Who I can answer this one. I was in a medically induced coma for 2 weeks, about 3 months ago. I had open heart surgery. It didn't go well, had trouble coming off the ventilator, so they just put me in a coma to try to give me time to heal. I had nightmares the entire time from the medicine they were using to knock me out. I thought I had been kidnapped by a nurse and was a victim of sex trafficking. I thought my drug addict aunt and her friends robbed my sister and her husband, killing my brother-in-law and one of their children, and I thought I was constantly being grabbed by people under my bed. It was not fun. I can't say that I knew I was in a coma or anything. I'm usually one of those people that when I have a bad dream, I can tell myself it is just a dream and wake myself up in order to end it. This was not like that. I was convinced it was all really happening. 4 days or so, traumatic brain injury. I knew time was passing, but not sure how fast. I can remember people being in the room with me, eyes were taped shut, and people taking